Hi everybody, this is Tina from Rehatch Designs, and I'm here today with a continuation of my Boho journal. What I want to do today is how do we decorate a blank page, completely blank, nothing on it. What do we do? Because I know that that's really scary for a lot of people. It definitely was for me. But I kind of have learned some different things that I kind of generically do from journal to journal, some more than others, but basically it helps me move forward in the journal process, just so, because I know kind of what I'm going to do. Anyway, I want to share that with some people, and if you already have your own way of doing it, great, let me know. And everybody's process is different, and I learn all the time in watching different people do different processes. So, it's kind of a fun thing to watch. Even if you have your own way of doing it, sometimes it's kind of fun to see how other people do it. Anyway, I'm going to get right to it. So hopefully we can have a video that is not incredibly long. So, what I want to do first is talk to you about the blank page, and what I mean by that is, for instance, all of your pages that you have printed on the other side, that if you haven't printed both sides, then you have all these pages. And I print any of my pages on parchment paper, okay? And the reason I do that, it's kind of a beige color, simply because I like the sturdiness of it. And these are the pages, usually, if I'm using a digital or something, these are the pages that I add things to. For instance, I added the elements to it, this little pocket. I added this to it, and it's because they're stronger and they're sturdy. I don't usually add this kind of stuff to my coffee dyed papers, and I do my coffee dyed papers basically with just regular copy paper, just cheap copy paper. I usually always do the legal size so that I can cut them to whatever I need later, and I like having little offshoots I can use for tags and things. But anyway, for the most part, whenever I am copying digitals or anything like that, I usually use the parchment paper. I like how it prints on them better, and I also like, they're super sturdy. And I buy just a big box of, like, I think 500, and off of Amazon. There's a lot of different companies out there. I've only used one kind, so I really can't tell you which is the best. Pretty much, I almost exclusively always use it, okay? Just because even when I'm doing things for documents to look old, I don't normally print it on coffee dyed paper. I used to, but I don't anymore, because I can really work with this parchment paper and make it look old, and it turns out pretty good because it's not as flimsy. Now it depends too. There's some stuff that I do on newsprint, etc., for different textures and things like that. But anyway, for the most part, when I'm doing digitals, I do use this. Okay, so what I'm going to go over today is basically how I decorate these, age them up, that kind of thing. And if we have time in the video, then I will probably go ahead and get on to the second part of what I do to these pages. If I don't, then we'll just do a part two. Likely there'll be a part two, because I never can get things done to the point where, I get it to where it's under an hour if I try and do too much. I've figured out that that's my issue, is I'm trying to accomplish too much in one video. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pages, and these are all printed pages that I'm using in my journal, you know, different sizes, different kinds, and I just kind of, this one has something that I've already put on it, and I want to show you that you can do this after, okay, that you've already done things. The best time to do this process is before you've added anything to the pages, okay, because we will be using alcohol ink and some water, and it can you know, mess up what you've already put on there a little bit, but you can do it after. I do it all the time after. This is a good time when you're doing your journal, on our journal that we're doing for the Boho Gypsy journal, which I guess I should show people in case you're new. I've got it. Oh, I don't have the cover here. I don't know where I put the cover. Let me see. I hid the cover. Oh, good. I lost the cover. I'll show it to you at the end. Anyway, the Boho Gypsy journal that I'm doing, I am not sewing in the signatures yet. Okay, so I'm doing those later after I've decorated most of the pages. Not 100%, but this is what you want to do before you sew your journal together, because I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it after, but it would be a lot harder. Okay, all right, so let me just start here. I've got this page right here, and what I'm going to do is I have several things, and I've used these a gazillion times, but I'm going to go over them. These are alcohol inks that I've made, alcohol sprays, I'm sorry, with alcohol ink, and these are Ranger Latte, Ginger, and Caramel, okay? And the thing is that they're browns, but they're different tones of brown, and I mix them up, and sometimes I'll mix them together, sometimes I'll make them separately, but I do not tea dye or coffee dye my parchment paper. This is the color that it is, okay? And I print on it, okay? And some people use coffee dyed paper to print you know, their digitals. I don't do that. I, again, use just the parchment paper, but I don't do anything to the parchment paper before I do it. So to me, this looks, you know, it looks new, okay? It looks kind of, and if you're vintaging up your journals, well, that's not going to work, okay? So what I do is I take, I would say about 20 drops of the alcohol ink, and I mix it with alcohol. And I realize that alcohol is hard to come by right now, but, you know, I used to just get the 50% from the dollar store. And I know when I first started doing this, it said you had to have 80% or 90%. You don't. I used to do the 50%. It worked just fine. And then I just basically, I just make it to whatever tint I want. I keep experimenting until I get it. And I like having 3 different colors just because I think it gives it a really cool effect. And then what I do is I have a darker mixture of basically latte, and I probably put some of the caramel in here too. And this is just in an old dropper bottle thing. And I use that also for the dropper. I also have a mixture in here, and believe it or not, guys, I did this just trying to see if I could get it to work. I found hand sanitizer is readily available, and usually I would do this with alcohol, but I mixed it with hand sanitizer, and it worked great because it's a little bit thicker, and when you see the process, it's just in a glass jar, and it's a lot more concentrated, and I have it in there. Okay, you don't have to have all those, but you do. Okay, this is some vintage photo that I have. Basically, this is the end of my bottle. This is when oh, it's leaking. Okay, that's not good. I'll just go ahead and take that and put it on my paper. Okay, I don't want to waste that. I have gloves on for a reason. My hands have been brown from doing stuff like this, and I haven't been able, I mean, as soon as I get them clean, it just gets to the point where, Okay, so this is vintage photo. And I was at the end of the bottle. It could be any one distress ink that you have. And I just filled it with water after, you know, I was at the bottom of the barrel. Okay, so believe it or not, this is still quite concentrated just with the water in there. And I use that. Okay, put this all over. Okay, so I am going for kind of a distressed look. I'm going to put these kind of over here. And I decided to put this stuff on this little, extend my mat, because I'm getting this mat. I don't even know why I try to even keep it up. I keep buying new ones and using them, and I'm going to quit going down that rabbit hole because I cannot keep them from turning into a mess. Alcohol inks, you know, they will definitely stain things, so your clothes, everything, because they're you know. And I use the alcohol ink instead of water or tea dyeing for a reason. It dries a lot quicker and it's a little bit more concentrated, and I like the effect. The other thing that I do is I make my own little alcohol inks, and I have a couple colors here that I'm going to use, and I use those also. And I will, if I can remember, put my video out there of my homemade alcohol sprays, basically. And I have some shimmer sprays that I've made just with eyeshadow from the dollar store, and I'll try and put that out there if I can remember. One of them's kind of a goldish color. It looks kind of green on here, but it actually kind of shimmers with kind of a goldish brown color. And then this one is just a white shimmer spray, and sometimes I do that. I also use my distress inks. These work great if you're wanting to add color to your page, just a little bit here and there, and I don't do directly on. I'll show you how I do that. And of course I use my different distress inks. Today I'm using my vintage photo, which, by the way, guys, this is very well worn, but is really hard to find. Oh, look at that. It just made that go all over the page. I'm going to do something with that real quick because I had just re-inked it. Here we go. Watch this. This is my alcohol ink. I'm just going to spread that on there. And that will spread that out a little bit. Okay. We're not going to waste it. That kind of goes ahead and shows you what we're going to do. So getting back, the vintage photo is really hard to find, and I paid up for it, so hopefully I'll get some. But these three colors, I take a little bit of each. I spray it on there, and there's just a subtle difference. You know, some are darker than others, and I just do that to give it overall color and effect. Okay, so I'll do that with those. One thing that'll happen, and you may or may not like this, so there's something to consider. When you use an inkjet printer and you've already printed on your page, it will, some of the color will bleed through onto this page. I like that effect. If you don't like it, then what you have to do is basically do this whole process before you print your pages, okay? And then that way there won't be any ink to bleed through. It's just plain paper, okay? Now you'll notice it doesn't really mess up the front too much. It really doesn't. And you know, in this kind of paper, it kind of adds to the look. But if you notice the colors coming through, I like that effect. To me, that would be a natural effect if you have an aged paper that's gotten wet, humidity, that type of thing, okay? So anyway, that's what's happening on this already, okay, which so you can kind of see. Now what I will do, this jar with this more concentrated stuff, I take a little paintbrush and I will go around the edge of this top just like this a little bit, okay? And I might take that and go like that or like that, okay? And And then I might take this and do that a little bit. Okay, just like that. So that will add darker spots on there. Okay, the other thing that I like to do, I'm going to put that to the side, is my dropper with my concentrated. Now this one is not as concentrated as the Distress ink, but I'm going to take that, and you can take that and put some on there, or you can go like this. Okay, I don't really take it and squeeze it on there, but I'll do that. Now this Distress ink, I kind of do the same thing, but this is really, believe it or not, even though it is basically at the bottom of the barrel, it's pretty intense. So you want to be careful with that. Now see, this is an empty Distress ink. Okay, so it's not going to be, you know, as much, but that's, you know, after it's empty. So that's something to consider. All right, so, and I will take this too, and if it's on there blobby. Now the Distress ink is in water, it's not in alcohol, so it will take longer to dry, but it's just little drops. Now because excuse me, let me get a drink here. Because this is mainly alcohol ink, except for those few little drops that I did of Distress ink. Here, I'm going to go like that. I want them to be a little more blotchy. Let me do that. Okay. Anyway, look at this little gnat or something in here. It will dry fairly quick. Okay. It's going to dry pretty quick. So I will just do that, put it aside. Then I'll take my next paper and we'll do the same. So we can start with, I usually kind of start with my lighter color. And I know you can't really see it that much, but it does change it. Then I'll do my medium. Well, this is actually my dark, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, and I just kind of, and the reason I do the 3 colors is I think it gives it kind of a cool effect. And if it drips while you're doing it, that's great. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. All right, and then maybe I want to put some of my drops on there. And this is kind of the caramel color, so it's a little bit lighter than the Distress ink. So maybe I want to put a few of that in there. And be careful with this, guys, because it little goes a long way. It's actually still very strong. All right, so we did that. I don't like how those are. I'm going to drip those a little bit. I like the drips, and let me move that. Okay, so that is there. I don't put the little round ring on all of them because then it kind of, to me, it loses its effect. But again, as you can see, the alcohol ink, you're going to be able to see this color on the other side. It doesn't really mess up the front very much. Okay, so as you can tell, you'll be able to tell better when it dries. But so then I just keep going through the pile, and the wetter you get it, the more it's going to do that. If I have ink sitting here, I'll just take this and then, you know, I'll mop it up with that. Okay, so you could take it and then, let's say you want to add some color to this in addition to that. What I do is I like to add the color first. This is my alcohol spray. It's really intense. Okay, I'm just going to put a little. A little goes a long way. I'm going to do a little bit of this blue. Okay, and that's all I'm going to put of that. Okay, so I've got that color on, and the reason I put it on first is because it's kind of intense. Then I take my alcohol ink and I spray it on there, and it kind of tones it down quite a bit, so it's more of a background. Okay, again, I'm going to put some other colors on there with it. I mean, you don't have to do the 3 different colors like that, but I do it just because I do think it adds some depth. Okay, so let's just say you want to do that again. This time we'll go all the way around, and we'll do it right there. And then maybe we'll do half. Okay. Well, I guess it did the whole thing, and then go like that. All right. So, I don't know if I'm going to add anything else to that. I think it looks good the way it is. Maybe a little bit more brown right there. Okay, so now I'm going to leave that aside and let it dry, okay? And my purpose in doing this is I want there to be color in the background. I still, on these pages, want them to be relatively writing pages, okay? So, and what I do next to them depends on how they turn out to me. That's just kind of how it's going to be, because I don't really know until I do it. This is a bigger page, so I'm going to add some of the darker brown. And like I said, if it drips, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Do that. And the difference on the paper, because I've diluted the alcohol ink in these sprays, may not seem like a lot, but it really does make a difference when it's all dry. You'll see. On this one, I think I'm going to take a little bit of this, and then maybe here have some smaller splotches because they're kind of big. All right, and then I don't think I want to do that. I think on this one, I'm just going to kind of leave it and see how this one turns out. You know, the only thing I might do is I want to kind of spread this out a little bit more. So I'll put a little water on it and then maybe let it drip a little bit. Okay. So, yeah, I think I'm going to leave that one. And I'm putting these all aside to dry, and they're surprisingly, they dry very quick. I do this technique all the time when I'm doing journals, because if I have like an envelope or something that I want to do and I don't want to, you know, spend the time to, I'm going to try this darker color a little bit. I'm going to do it first. And there's no order in which you have to do this. I mean, this is what I'm doing, but okay. If you're, like, see, it drips right there, that's cool. We can live with that. The thing is, you can, oh gosh, there's no order in what you have to do this, but I forgot what I was saying. Oh well, y'all let me know. You do not have to do this process, and you do not have to do it as much as I do it. You know, it's to your taste. You know, a lot of people don't do this at all, and that's fine. I didn't do it in my first journals, but okay, I do think, do I want to do any more? I think I'm going to leave that one and just see how it turns out. A lot of times the next layer, what I do, just really depends on how it looks when it's dry. So I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to that. You know, I just kind of... Now, if you want these kind of blotches like that, then what you do is you just take your whatever and do that. Okay. And then you're going to go, maybe take this one. I don't know why it's so tight there. Now that's alcohol ink, and sometimes I mix those two. And then you're just going to kind of go like that, and then lightly go like that. Okay. All right. Now this one I kind of want colorful, so I'm going to add some color to it. So on this one, what I'm going to do is I am going to take my distress ink, and I am just going to put it on my glass mat. And I'm going to just take a yellow. I kind of want to put another color in there. Let me see what I got up there. I usually don't put too many colors. And then what I'll do with that is I will actually take either my alcohol ink, and I have one here. This is just plain tea, okay, very concentrated with water. And your distress inks are activated with water. I just spray the tea, and the reason I do that is that it's a little, it's just tones down the color a little bit. And then I will take that, and it's nice and liquidy. You don't want it to look like squares on your paper, so you want to barely press in there, go like that. Be careful, because really should do one color at a time. It works better, but I'm impatient, so because if you mix the colors, they'll get kind of muddy. So you want to kind of, I'm trying not to mix them, but the best way not to mix them, do them one at a time, and then it'll probably work better for you. But anyway, I'm not doing that, so for expediency, I'm just kind of trying to get it done. Okay, so I don't really want to pick up that color on the middle. Here we go. Maybe just lay it straight down. Okay, so anyway, here's some colors that we picked up. You know, if you want more, you definitely can. I usually try not to put too much on there, believe it or not. Let me see if I can find an orange color. Here we go. This will work. Just take a little of that. Like I said, you don't want a square, so you got to be careful not to do it like that. And then get a little bit of this on there. A little bit more orange there. Okay, so we have some color that we put on here, and I am going to go ahead and leave this until it is dry. I do think right here it's a little white, so I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of my distress ink and just kind of see what I can do with that. I don't want it all, you know, color and then white, so I'll put that there. And that may be too intense for some people, and it's too much, but it is very translucent, and the color is kind of muted because we've used the sprays over it. So that's kind of what I like. Like I said, I still want these to be papers that you can use. This is not going to be as dark as it is right now, because that's mainly because the paper's wet. Okay, so I'm going to take this and put it aside, and then I'm going to mop this up really quick, and then we're going to come back with them all dry, and then you can see what they look like. Okay, so we will do that. Okay, so I've dried all of our papers, and I kind of want to show you what they look like dry. And I do realize it's not everybody's cup of tea, but that is the one, and you can see that the color bled through. Now I want to show you, it's kind of hard to tell on these because of the way that they are, but it really doesn't mess up the other side if you don't oversaturate it, but it does enough to where some of the color, and this is completely dry, has come through, and I like that look. If you don't like it, like I said, then you want to distress your papers first, and then print them, okay? And then that won't happen. You'll just have the brown and whatever. And I did want to show you, this is kind of, if you wanted to, you could go like this, okay? This is just sprayed on lightly, and then vintage photo around the edge, and then you could have a paper that looks just like this. So, you know, I mean, you don't have to do what I'm doing here if you don't like it, if you want it just like that, okay? So that's what it would look like. I'll put that up here. Anyway, so on this one, I kind of like how it looks. I don't think I'm going to do anything else to it. Maybe I might do a little, let's see, that's really crooked, boy. Okay. what I'm going to do for sure, which I always do, and it really kind of ties it all together, is you take your vintage photo or whatever color you're using, and you're going to distress it, or, you know, just do the edges. And it really depends, you know, on what you're looking for. I mean, like I said, this may be over the top for some people. For some, it may not be enough, okay? And I always do the outside, of course. I used to think that that was a lot of work, and it, you know, is it worth it? Well, I just think that when you do that throughout your whole journal, it really gives it a very distressed look and cohesive look. Anyway, so I do take the time to do it. All right, so anyway, so that I would probably just leave that the way it is, because I don't think it needs anything else, okay? That, to me, it's done. Okay, so that's a done one. This is the one that we sprayed our alcohol ink on, and then we did our little rings, and the rings actually picked up some of the color from behind, and I'll show you again. It didn't really, you know, you can kind of barely see that there, but on this distressed paper, I think it's a plus, you know. So anyway, I think this one's done. I think you just ink it up, call it a day. I don't know that I would do anything else to that, because when I look at the page, what I'm looking for is that it's interesting, that it has some character, and that if someone were looking at this, you know, would they be interested in looking at that page? It's not just a blank page anymore, okay? It doesn't need any more decorating. It has interest, it has depth, okay? We've accomplished that with just ink and color. So we don't need to do probably anything else to that, okay? So that one's done. All right, this one I think looks really cool. It picked up the color, you know, from the other side. And if it does it more, this is the exact same paper that I had over here, and this didn't pick up nearly as much. Well, that has to do with how wet you get it, okay? How much alcohol ink you spray on there. If you put more, then more is going to bleed through. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that. But on this, I think I want to do something else, okay? I think what I want to do is I want to add maybe some, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe some stamping I think would be cool. So I guess I'll ink that later so that y'all don't have to watch me do that. This one, and this is completely dry. This I think looks really cool. It has the pattern from the other side on there. This is the pattern. But what's interesting is it didn't really distort this, okay? But it shows up on this side, and I think that's really neat, but I want to add more to that, believe it or not, okay? The same with this one. It did the same thing. The pattern showed up on this side more than the other, and that has a lot to do with how much you sprayed on there, okay? So on this one, it's distressed, but I want to add more to it, okay? Okay, this one, this is the one that had a lot of color all over it, and then we put a lot of color on here, and on this one, I'm going to add something to that also, okay? So we're going to go ahead and go through that process. On this one, I am going to put gesso on it, and I don't put it on all of my papers. I just do it on a few throughout the journal, because to me, if you do the same thing to everyone, then it doesn't have as much impact. So I don't like to do that on every page. So, and I usually reserve my gessoing for when I want to cover things up a little bit or dull them down or something. So I'm just taking, this is just some gesso that I bought. This is heavy gesso. I don't know. I haven't ever really used any other kind. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this and kind of spread it in different spots. Now you can do it all over if you want to, but I'm going to do just spots on here. And I'm just using an old credit card. This is actually an Oyster card for my trip last year. And the gesso actually just tones things down. That's what it does. So, and it adds, you know, dimension to it. It's kind of shocking how cool it looks. Because you're thinking, oh, you're going to mess it up with some gesso. And it doesn't really. So anyway, I think a little bit more right here. So the spots on here that I think were a little bit too dark are now very translucent. Okay. And usually this process works to me the best when you've added color already to your page. You can add color on top of it, but I don't think it works as well. So that will be, now if you want to, if you want that to be a little less white, what you can do with that is you can just take your alcohol ink. I like it the way it is, but you can just take your alcohol ink. I guess I'll just do it to show you. And this dries very quickly, especially when you put it on that thin. It's just take a little bit of your alcohol ink and go over it. And what that'll do is that just adds, makes it a little bit darker. It adds a little bit more of a, you know, a little bit, tones down the white is what I'm saying, so it doesn't look so white. And I do that a lot because I think, well, if this really was old and sitting around, it wouldn't be super white. So I'm going to find another page that I wanted to do that to. Okay, here it is right here. So I don't waste my gesso. Or was it this one? Okay, I think it was this one. I'm going to add just some to that while I still have it. And I'm not going to add a lot. I'm just going to add some to spots that I think it might. Now this doesn't have the color down first, so it's going to have a different effect. But I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to show you, do something else real quick. Get all that on there. Okay, so I've added the gesso on there, and I've kind of spread it around. I like it kind of blotchy when it gets like that. I love that. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this is I am going to add just a little bit more depth to this. Where did that go? Okay. Yeah, this is the caramel color. I'm going to try that. And that is just going to make the gesso not look so new or white. Going to add a few drops in there. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit and dry because I'm going to come back and do something with that in a minute. So that one's drying. All right, these two, let me put the top on that because that's an accident waiting to happen. Oops. These two are going to be a little bit different in what I do. Let me work on this. I'm going to work on that one first. I am going to add a little bit of, oh gosh, these are sticking on there. Which one do I want to do? I think I want to do, okay, these are cutouts from a die cut that I have, and I think I'm going to use that on here. You can use a stencil. You can use a die cut. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to use some texture paste. And I think I'm going to use gold because there's a lot of gold in here. And I am just going to take this and kind of put it on the corners. Now, mind you, these are two separate pages, so I don't have to, you know, make it coordinate on both sides. But I'm probably, just for expedience sake, and I'm just taking my texture paste and I'm putting it through here. This is Vicky Bouton, and it doesn't take much of this. It goes, and you don't want it perfect, guys. The idea is to not get it perfect, and I know that bothers people sometimes, but that's really what you're going for. You're looking for something that's been around for a while, and it's probably chipped off and not in good shape. Okay, there we go. And so if not all of them are filled completely or whatever, that's a good thing. So that's kind of the look you're going for, okay? And then I'm probably going to put a little bit more on top on this side, but I don't want a lot. I just want, let me see if I can get that the way I want it. It doesn't really work right. Okay. I have a Harlequin stencil somewhere, but I have no idea where it's at. So I'm probably going to have to, it's better if I do it upside down. I can actually reach it. Okay, there we go. That's perfect right there. Go a little bit lower. So I'm going to put some of this on here, just a little bit, and then kind of work with that design. I didn't have enough on there. Hold on. And these are, I bought these little spatula things at the dollar store. I actually like them better. I have some metal ones, but for this I like it because they bend real well. I actually like them better, so you know, to each his own, but this is what I like. So okay, I don't want them to be perfect, but anyway. All right, so anyway, I've added that to it, and so that helps with the design. I do think it leans a little bit more inking, but the fact that I do is kind of a good thing, because I want to get that gold and dull it down a little. Now I'm going to do something to the other side. I got some paint there. I'm going to put that aside for a minute. And I'm not going to use the same thing. I have another little, actually I don't want to do that one. I think I want to do this one, if I can get it apart. Okay, this one, I don't want to do the texture paste. Now mind you guys, this is going to go, these are two different parts of the journal. So I'm going to take this, and I think what I'm going to do on that is I am going to, where did it go? I am going to take this copper with my hands. Used to be a lot creamier. Don't leave your tops off on these, guys. And I'm going to just take this and I'm going to kind of rub it in here. You can see why my stencils never turn out good, or always a mess. This might be too intricate for this paste because it's so thick right now. It's just kind of thick. I might have to water it down first. Let me see how that's turning out. Yeah, it's a little bit too thick right now, so it would probably work on a stencil that's not so intricate, but on this one, because it is so thick, let me try it with this and see if it works better, if it doesn't make a big blob. Let me see. Yeah, it's turning out okay. I think, honestly, I really need to thin this out enough to where you can use it. I've got to get some in there. I'm just going to stipple it in there. It'll work better. Okay, let me see if I can pull that off now. So I put some right on that corner. I'm going to put a tiny bit right here because I kind of messed it up a little bit earlier by putting some on there. So I'm kind of want it at a corner. Let's see if I can get that in there. Okay. And all you're trying to do is add some interest to the page. You don't have to. Now I'm using all of this metallic stuff because of the type of journal I'm doing. You could just use vintage photos, something like that. I mean, it really, whatever you do, see, that needs to be more to the corner. That is going to bug me. Let's see here if I can kind of sort of match that up. Let me see if I can bring that down just a tiny bit. I don't know if I'll be able to. Go right here. All right, that's pretty good. I don't want it to be a perfect line is what I'm worried about, guys. I don't like it being a perfect line all the way across. That'll bug me. Okay, just like over here. It's too much of a perfect line. I'll go nuts if I leave it like that. I just want it to kind of fade off a little bit. All right, yeah, that's a little better. Okay. Oh, I stuck my finger in there. So anyway, that is what I would do to my pages to kind of jazz them up a little. And then I would probably go ahead, because it's kind of bright, and I go ahead and let that dry and then ink it up a little, and then that would be it. And I just smush some gold over here, but that's okay. And some of that, but that's all right. It'll still look okay. I'll take a little bit of gold, tiny bit, go over that, and it'll kind of all blend in. It'll look intentional. If you do mess up, guys, there are no mess ups. So just realize that. Just take your, let's see, I'm going to put a little gold all the way around, just smear it around. And so that little blob that I put down there is going to look like, oh, that's supposed to be there. Okay? That's kind of what I do. I just make things, my mistakes look intentional. So I'll take that. I'm going to go a little bit over here, over there. And so you can still write on those pages, but at the same time, that looks really, you know, interesting. Okay, so we did that. Let me put the tops on these. This is why they dry out, because I'll get working on the next thing. This is why my stencils look terrible, because, you know, when you're doing a video and you're putting stuff aside, it's kind of hard to keep up the pace there. Okay, so another thing that I like to do, hopefully I get most of this off of my hands, leave that over here, is, okay, I love to ink things and emboss them. Here, I'm going to show you this set that I just got. I just got this, so hopefully it works out, guys. You can have kind of a similar effect if you do embossing. So let me show you. Let me get this one. I think this one would work good. And these are similar designs, so that's why they work together. It'll work because you're okay, so because what you're doing now, this is very intricate, so I'm hoping that it turns out. I don't know if it will or not. I have no clue, which is, you know, living dangerously. But I haven't really decorated this page. You know, this is just a plain page. That's why you kind of want to do it now. If you mess it up, you can always print off another page, right? So if you wait till later, first of all, you can mess up your page, but So I'm going to put that up there. Okay. And I'm going to take a little bit of it and do it down here on the bottom. So I'll just take that. Okay. Then what I'm going to do, let me get a piece of paper because I think it'll work better than my little catcher thing for this. All right. Oh, I can't even see what I did. I don't even know which side I did it on. I hope it's this side. Looks like it. So I'm going to go ahead and this is very fine. This is, it says the world's greatest embossing pattern. I've had it for a while, but the thing about it is that you have to use ultra fine when you have a very defined design, or it will not. It'll just kind of all blob together. So that's kind of what you have to use. Okay. Now I have a few little extra blobs there, so I'm going to have to, I usually just take a little paintbrush and kind of get those off. And then this is, if a few pieces go here and there, okay, but you don't want big blobs. Okay. Now I'm going to take this and go ahead and put it back before I use my heat gun, because otherwise this stuff will go everywhere. And I have a little tray thing, but whenever I'm doing a big sheet like this, I just use a sheet of paper. Okay, let me get that off of there. This stuff has the texture of sand, in case you're not used to using it, and it just, it can get all over, trust me. But a little goes a long way. You buy this stuff and it'll last forever. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get something to hold this down so I don't burn my hand. And, okay, so that turned out really cool. I really love it. I think that's a good look. I'm going to do the other side. Get a different stamp. Now remember, guys, these are not going to be right next to each other, so let's see. Maybe I'll put, I'm going to live dangerously because this one's very detailed and it may or may not work, so we'll see. We shall see. You know, get enough ink on there. That's the most important, is get them, and this is a brand new stamp, so like I said, I hope it works. If it doesn't, like I said, we haven't really done anything to this page, so it's not like we can't just print another one and start over. And you know, I hear people all the time talking about how they're going to start something or whatever, and they have some fear, and I'm like, guys, it's paper, you know. Now this one kind of goes in the middle, so I am going to press that down. And if it does not turn out absolutely perfect, that's okay, because guess what, guys? We don't want perfection. We're striving to not have perfection. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use my tray on this one. And let's see what happens. The key to doing this always is the ultra fine. You can't use the thick, heavy. Yeah, so this one didn't turn out as well because it is, like I said, it's a lot more intricate, and you know, I don't know. Let's see if I can, no, I can't get those extra pieces off of there. I don't know. I think what I might do on this is, I don't like the pattern how it looks. So where's my little duster thing that I have? Let me get it. I just got to get a brush. I'm just going to take this and go like this. I'm going to swipe it all off because it is clear. You won't see it. Okay. No harm, no foul. Okay, I'm going to do that. Get that all off of there. The pattern in that stamp is too oh, I don't know what to say, but just a little bit too close together to really get to see it. So you have to kind of watch that on embossing. Now stamping would probably work just fine. Okay, so I'm going to try these other ones here. And I'm going to do them in a different spot in case that glue is not, or the Versa mark is okay, so I'm going to do this here. And then let me put that in there again in case it dried a little. And do a little bit right here. Okay. Let's see if those work. I don't know. Oh yeah, much better. And it really just is the stamp, guys. It's just, and there's nothing wrong with that stamp, don't get me wrong. It's just that when you're using embossing powder, now see this one got a little weird there, but that's okay because I don't dislike it. I'm probably going to just take part of that off. There we go. That makes it defined a little bit more. And we have a few flakes here and there, and that's good. I like that. I like that look. All right, so anyway, we'll go ahead and do that. Now, I'll go ahead and put this aside, and then I'll deal with it later. There's lots of other layers you can do to this now, guys, and one of the things that I would do, I don't know if that's all the way dry. Yeah, it feels pretty dry. On these is I would always probably at this point, I would take my script stamp, okay, and use different ones, but I like to use this watering can rather than the black, but you can use either one. The reason I use the watering can is it's kind of a dark gray, and it's not as strong, but you can take that and do these one at a time. At this point I would just take it and go just a little bit here and there, you know, just wherever you want, and you could add different ones. I'm just doing this quickly just kind of to show you what a cool look that is, right? Okay, so make sure your paper is completely dry when you do this, otherwise it'll bleed and kind of blend a little bit, so you don't want that. I'm going to do that here. And you just really want to do it lightly. You don't want it all over. You're just kind of just doing a little bit here and there. You can put music, you can put whatever you want, and that just adds a little bit more depth to it. Okay, so you can do that on these. All right. Let me get that on there better. I mean, you could add some gesso on here if you want to. You can take it to any level that you want. It's all up to you. Okay, and this stamp I got, I don't even remember. I think I got it from AliExpress, and I really like it. It has these little black blotches. Some people may not like that. Okay, so I kind of want that over there a little bit. All right, so I would do that probably to all of these pages. Just kind of lightly go over them. Maybe, okay, just a little here and there, just to kind of give it some character. And then what I would do is I would add a little bit more, I would go back in and probably add my vintage photo around the edges. I would kind of vintage this up a little. If you want more gesso, you know, now's the time. So anyway, that's what I would do. That's what I do with the blank page. Those are just some of the techniques that you can do. These aren't all the way finished, but that's just the idea, guys. So if that's, you know, something that you want to do, then like I said, it's not hard to do. It's very easy. You can do it to any level that you want. You can take it to just this level. You can take it to, oh gosh, I don't want to spill that. You can take it to this level, or you can take it and just do that. I mean, and just kind of distress your pages and not do anything else and just do that. So that's totally up to you, how far you want to go with it. I love this part of making the journal. I think it's a lot of fun. It used to totally intimidate me, but now it's the most fun for me. Okay, everybody, I thought I would pop on again. It's me, to kind of show you the finished product. I like to do that when I haven't finished and I've gone on and done more, and most of the times I do that just because, as I've said before, the hardest part to me of junk journaling is getting all your stuff out, well, and finding it and putting it away. And if I do all that, then I go ahead and complete what I'm doing, or maybe do more than just the few that you see that me do. And, you know, I thought, well, I might as well show you those. I like to see finished products myself. So anyway, this is one that I did not do with you, but then this is just the gold texture paste. It has gesso on it. It has some color sprayed on it. Quite honestly, guys, this was one that I really didn't like at all, and I want to tell you I love it now. So that one, and then this one was another one I didn't like. And on this one I did gold flaking, and I did some embossing, and I did some different stamping on it, and the stamps didn't turn out, so I had to go back over it with some more gesso. And I think the reason I end up liking some of these so much when I go over them is that it starts adding more layers, and I just think in the end they end up looking pretty good. So the moral of the story is don't give up on them. More layers usually end up being a positive. Gesso over it, add more color, do whatever it is you have to do, and that will usually make it look even better. So most things are salvageable. So let me do that one. Here's another one. I don't think I did that with you. This is one, it had a lot of color on it, so I basically gessoed it, and and then I did the stamping and embossing. This one, two sides are different. You have to remember this is going to be in a signature, and when it's in a signature, this is one side and then this is the other. So you know, they won't be together. So you don't necessarily have to do the whole thing the same. That's what I'm trying to say. So this is just embossing. This is just some stenciling. This is one I really thought I was going to throw in the trash. It just didn't work at all, and it was way too bright, and but I put the copper on there, and then I dulled it down. Well, actually, I dulled it down with gesso first and then put the copper on there, and I really like how it turned out. You know, this was one that I'm telling you also that I couldn't stand. It was terrible, but I just played with it enough to where it turned out pretty good. The one thing too is, I think it's actually upside down. The one thing too is I was stenciling. Some of the stenciling did not turn out well, and I just gessoed over that, and I think it actually added a lot to it. Here's another one that I did the embossing. This is probably one of my all-time favorites, and yet it was another one that I thought I would have to throw away. And I basically just kept working with it, gessoing, you know, adding color, and it turned out okay. These are ones that I didn't do anything other than gosh, I think on this I just sprayed the ink on it and stamped it. That's pretty much all I did. This one, I think, this one I did add some gesso to it, and that's just because some of the colors were a bit bright, so I wanted to tone them down, and so I did that. This is kind of upside down too. This one I didn't do anything but spray with the alcohol ink, and then I did some stenciling. Okay, this one had some embossing on it, and then just some stamping. There's no gesso. Of course, I sprayed all of them with the alcohol ink and did that. This one, this I just sprayed with some alcohol ink, a little bit of colored alcohol ink, and then that's it. Same thing on this one. I didn't do anything special to it. Same thing on this one. This one is the same also. Just put a little alcohol ink in it, put a little color in it. Here we go again. And that's basically all I did on these last few, is I just did that. This one has a little bit more color to it, but I kind of liked it just the way it is. And then this one is one that I did just to show you that this is, this is how you start, and you add to it. And you could do all your pages like this and not do any of that. My point with all of that is that you don't have to put a tag or, something on every page or in every page. You can decorate the pages, and that in itself is art, and you don't have to do anything beyond that if you don't want to. I add things a lot of times to those pages, but if you look at all of them, there's plenty of room to write in them. There's, it's just, you still have, all of that room to write on those pages, and you can certainly add things to them also. Anyway, that's it. I did want to point out one other thing, is that you can always, use a brush, a stencil brush, and add more to this. You don't have to just use the spray alcohol ink. That's not a problem to do it that way. And then, of course, you can always add other colors and different types of ink and that type of thing. This is just like the basic things that you can do to decorate pages. Anyway, thank you guys. I will be seeing you again soon.